Will we rise to the occasion under pressure? All right, everyone, that's the question for today. And welcome to my channel. My name is Thomas, and I hope you're having a great day out there. I do videos on educational topics, any kind of basic 3 R's kind of topics, and also the sciences. But kind of a quantum view of those things, a more fundamental view, I feel, and also a viewpoint that is unknown. People, I try to uncover people who have been spending their whole life working on something, or that has not gotten any credit, and also some ancient models that are either unknown or unappreciated, or maybe you know, where we've our understanding of them is off target. One of these examples here is the tree of life, and so that's what we're looking at here in kind of the first unit of this channel, is the tree of life, which is an ancient diagram that goes all the way back to at least ancient Egypt. You may also know it as the Kabbalah, that was used by the Hebrews, and you know, most people kind of, if they even know of the Kabbalah, they think of it as kind of like a satanic symbol, or a satanic system of controlling people, which to a certain extent, is correct. But I don't know that that's how it came about in the first place. And secondly, it's a useful model to use, in order to defend yourself from these kind of evil attacks that might come by Kabbalists, but also it is just a resource that you can use, that is mostly content free, that you can use to organize your own thoughts. It's just a technology, just like anything else, and it can be used for good or evil intentions. So if you set your intention right, to be positive and to be beneficial, then that's what you can that's what you can get out of it. So we learn the tree of life for that reason. Another reason is that it's a fundamental structure, so that you can learn. If you can learn the tree of life, then that just makes all the other subjects that much easier to learn, because it gives you a structure to kind of categorize these other things, prioritize them, to be able to remember them. So it's kind of a meta model, where it not only does it help you by virtue of its own its own system, but it also helps you by being able to understand other systems, by able to be more easily understood anyway. Okay, so the tree of life, as you can see, has 10 different circles or spheres that are numbered 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There is an abyss here, an implied circle or sphere, and then there is a 0 above the tree. So there's 12 different components. These 12 different components roughly describe our faculties of consciousness, or the faculties of consciousness. And briefly, they can be described as 10 as our wild animal consciousness, survival of the fittest, kill or be killed, state of nature, the law of the jungle, and also the life force that keeps us alive even without our conscious input. And then we also have the defilements of the body, which is like a negative 10th sphere, which gets us away from this life force. It damages our life force and eventually destroys our life force if we keep it up. Okay, then the ninth sphere is really like our domesticated animal, mammalian brain. This is really our ability to be have heightened receptivity, called mediumistic trance, where we're, the first 5 years of our life growing up in the home, we are highly receptive to other influences, to other people. We watch what they do with great, great attention, and we then eventually we imitate what they do, and we practice that imitation until we get it right. So this is really how we learn through the ninth sphere. Through heightened receptivity, imitation, repetition, and memorization. Unfortunately, the ninth sphere is blind, so we will practice and memorize things that are not optimal just because somebody in our household is reflecting that. So we don't have the discernment to say, oh, this person is showing me an abusive habit. I don't need to learn that. We just learn it. We have devotion to those people. It's a blind devotion. And so we copy them regardless of what, whether it's optimal for our lives or for the lives of others. Okay, then the eighth sphere is also basically blind in that it's where it's the public sphere, where the ninth sphere is the domestic sphere at home. The eighth sphere is the public sphere out in the public, where this is really the conventional wisdom, the consensus worldview, the expert opinion. This is where all the establishment is, all the institutions are there, all the resources are here in the eighth sphere. And so we tend to exaggerate it because it's a crucial point. And many times we kind of see the eighth sphere as being like the be all end all. Like if we can get into the eighth sphere, then we've made it. And many people do just get into the eighth sphere and they feel like they've made it. But what they're not really recognizing is that the eighth sphere is a trickster. The eighth sphere tells you what you're supposed to believe, and it tells you how you're supposed to behave. But it's not always right on purpose. They tell you these things just to be able to control you. They don't tell you these things because they're true. They may be true, but that's only incidental. Their main focus is controlling you. And they can control you by, having you put all your focus on kind of getting into the eighth sphere, becoming one of the experts, becoming part of the establishment. That's your goal for your whole life, and that maybe even for your child's life. You might say, I never got to go to college. I never, got to do these things, but I'm going to save up for my whole life so that my kids have that opportunity. And so, you put all your focus on getting into the eighth sphere because you see this as really the measure of success. But once you get there, you can see that it's not really all it's cracked up to be, because a lot of the things that you learn here as belief systems in the eighth sphere, they contradict your own personal experience. And so again, we end up kind of inverting the eighth sphere and going a negative eighth sphere through things like rationalization, where we say, well, what they're teaching me here goes against my better judgment. It goes against what I've experienced in my own life, but there must be something wrong with me, because this is where the consensus is. This is where all the people are. And so if everybody thinks this way, then there must be something wrong with me, and I need to disregard my own experience so that I can fit in with this. So that's kind of a negative A sphere. Now, if you keep your A sphere on the positive, the faculties here in the A sphere are, our belief systems and our logical thinking. And if we think logically about it, and we think in a balanced way about it, we think, okay, well, this A sphere is necessary. This is where all the resources are. This is where the status is. And, everybody needs a little bit of that. But I'm really just going to give this lip service and I'm going to move on with my life because this isn't really fulfilling me. It's basically tying me up into knots with all of the contortions that I have to do in order to justify this with my own experience. And so I'm going to take my rational faculty rationally, and I'm going to, search elsewhere. And so you head over to the seventh sphere, where the eighth sphere is about the real world. The seventh sphere is your imaginary world. So the seventh sphere is where you go, where you see what the problems with the eighth sphere are, and you imagine something better. You're like, well, that would really work a lot better if it was done this way, if this happened, if they were aware of this, and so on. So the seventh sphere is about our imagination. It's also about our inspiration, where we see other people doing things that we want to be doing, and then we can kind of stand on their shoulders, take advantage of their mistakes that they learned the hard way, and just not make those mistakes again. And then also, kind of mark their footsteps. They're trudging through the snow, but they've broken a path, so it makes it easier for you. Also, our intuition, being able to kind of like wonder about things and be curious about things, go inside and ask for answers and get them. That's our power of intuition. We also have a creative spark where we are able to come up with novelty, new ways of approaching things. And then also our pleasure principle, being able to come up with things that are pleasing to other people. So we put together this whole package in the seventh sphere to provide an alternative to the eighth sphere. What we didn't kind of bank, and this is also where the discernment comes in. We recognize that this is not all it's cracked up to be. Where in the eighth sphere we're blind to it, and in the ninth sphere we're so blind to it that we're just dying to get into it. But at the seventh sphere we have enough discernment where we're like, this is not my path in life. This is not where this is not the human path. There's something kind of monstrous about this eighth sphere that it's been imposed on us, being forced on us, and you can kind of tell that when you do start to move away from the eighth sphere, you sense a huge panic of other people that are like just desperate to keep you in there, and they expose themselves to that, like by doing that. But so at the seventh sphere, you end up with a creative product or an invention that provides an alternative to the eighth sphere. But you didn't really understand that the eighth sphere doesn't really care. They don't want to change. They have no. This is the status quo. They have no interest in changing unless it's just tiny increments. But if they change in a big way, it's too much, because that then calls into question their whole system, and it calls into question their careers. They have invested a certain amount to get in here and to be here, and for you to come up with something that provides an alternative is too much of a threat. So in order to really develop your alternative, you have to go this way, upward. And so you go toward the sixth sphere to discover that the sixth sphere is where we all are anyway. If this was a map on a map, it would say you are here, right here at the sixth sphere. The sixth sphere is our free will faculty, our ability. This is really our essence. This is, what keeps us ticking. This is really where our agency is, and this is free will, our ability to pay attention and our ability to make decisions, and like make decisions in real time. And we'll be talking about that today a little bit. But so our attention, unfortunately, is normally directed down the tree toward 8, 9, and 10, and sometimes 7. So it looks like we're down here, but all the time we're really up here, but our attention is directed down here. So, but the other aspect of free will is our ability to make decisions. We can decide to avert our attention and turn our back on our lower aspects, and to turn around and to face our attention toward the higher parts of the tree, toward our higher aspects, which are unfortunately mostly unknown at this point. We haven't really tapped these faculties yet. So we're kind of staring into the unknown, and that causes a lot of fear, and that as a result is keeps people from doing it. You have to be able to summon a lot of courage to be able to turn yourself around and to face the top of the tree. Now, the first thing that you face here is the fifth sphere, which is our sense of justice, and you could also call this karma. Karma is what comes around, goes around. As you sow, so shall you reap. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You can think of the fifth sphere as being like a mirror here. This is your input and this is your output. This is what you get back. So if you put in something faulty, then you get back something faulty. And karma generally grades us basically on violence, violation, and waste. So if we act wastefully, then we get a wasteful result. If we act violently, we get a violent result. But if we're paying attention, which is our free will faculty, if we're paying attention, then we can recognize that this is happening to us, and we can adjust our action. We can make the decision to adjust our actions accordingly so that we're not creating so much karma. So karma can become a teacher for us as we move up on the path. And then as we move up further to the fourth sphere, which is really a counterpart to the fifth sphere, where the fifth sphere is about our sense of justice and the enforcement of the law, the natural law and the natural order of things. The fourth sphere is about the articulation of that natural law or the natural order. And so this is the ancient holy books and the cosmologies and the theories of everything that are out there that, try to tell you about how everything all fits together, the Tao. And, there are many different versions of this, and there are, whole civilizations that have been, that have gone into some of these. And in other cases, it's just one individual that spent their whole life working on this. But your best bet, I believe, at the sixth sphere is to study and become familiar with as many of these as you possibly can, and then use your intuition to kind of, by studying as many as you can, you basically get within striking distance of the truth. And then by using your intuition, you can kind of make that leap to get even, to kind of hone in even more closely on what is the truth, what we really are about, what this is really all about. Who is God? What are we doing here? What's our purpose? How do we fit in? What's, all these different overarching questions. So this is really like the universal law, also the universal language, and the universal love. Okay, then the abyss is really our psychic powers. And this boils down to really two aspects: our ability to notice omens and to be able to recognize omens that happen in our lives, the anomalies, things that are uncanny, things that are outlandish that happen in our lives that, kind of click something in our mind where it's like, wow, that was weird. that is an omen. That's something that we're supposed to keep track of and to this is this is really a magnetic charge, and it's something something that is the universal language to point something out to us that's important. And then the second aspect of the psychic powers is our psychic heat, which is our ability to actually act upon the omen. Okay, there's one thing to recognize the omen, but there's another thing to actually act upon it. Okay, then the 3, 2, and 1 at the top of the tree are our divine faculties within. 3 is our omnipotence, all-powerful. This is basically sound. We tap into this through synchronized sound. And this is also, you could think of that as mantra or shamanic rhythms, sacred music. And then this is really our ability to accomplish our divine mission, which we introduced here at the 7th sphere, where we have a purpose in life. And this is really being able to culminate the fulfillment of our purpose in life. And then the 2nd sphere is omniscience, all-knowing, or wisdom, our ability to solve problems. We solve problems not by thinking about it, but by not thinking about it. By not thinking about it, we make our minds blank. When our minds are blank, they become transparent, just like a body of water that's gotten completely calm. You can see through it. When you can see through it, you can see through the mind all the way to the center of the mind, or our deepest center, which is the 1st sphere. So the image, wisdom is really the image of the 1st sphere, which is the 1st sphere is omnipresence, all, everywhere, all at once, the all. And so we have an image of the all here at the 2nd sphere, and that enables us to come up with solutions to problems. We also can tap into the 2nd sphere through an oracle. If we can't, if we haven't developed the discipline to shut our minds down, which is very, very difficult, then we use a divination system such as a tarot deck or an oracle that uses a chance process to communicate the optimal course of actions to us. Okay, then the 1 sphere, 1st sphere, is the omnipresence, all present, all at once, eternally. And this is really our unification, because when we get to that, this is being able to see to the center of the mind. This is the ability to actually be with and merge with our highest center, our higher self, at the center or at our deepest core. And this is unification, because when we get there, we recognize that what is at our deepest core is the same as everybody else. Everybody else has the same thing at their deepest core, so it's a unifying factor. So the 1 as a unity. Okay, then the 0 above the tree is a mystery, and it's a nothingness. And it really reflects the fact that 0 is not part of the universe. It is, there is no 0, but there is a 0 outside of the universe, which is actually, it's not part of the universe, but it is part of the creator. So we have an indirect access to this 0, which can be very powerful if used properly. The evidence of that would be just the use of the 0 in mathematics. The use of 0 doesn't exist, and the people that invented the 0 know that it doesn't exist, but it has been used in order to power mathematics over the last millennia or something, millennium. And okay, so that is the basic aspect of the tree, the 12 different categories. Now what I've done with my teaching model is I've taken each one of the 12 categories and boiled it down to 12 new categories. So I basically placed a whole tree on each one of the spheres. So that ends up with 12, 12, 12, to a total of 144 different fractal or mini faculties. And each video at the end, we go over one of those 144 mini faculties. And I've also compiled that list into a guide that you can get if you click the link in the description, and I will send that out to you now for free. And today we're looking at number 55. Will we rise to the occasion under pressure? And this number 55 here is located in the sixth sphere. So that's our free will faculty, our ability to pay attention and to make decisions. And it is the fourth fractal or fourth aspect of the sixth sphere. So the fourth sphere is about universal law, universal love, and universal language, and cosmology, and the articulation of the law. And then this is within. This is also a greater success. This represents Jupiter, whereas this is Venus. This is the minor success, and this is the major success. Okay, so those are the aspects that go into this number 55. It's called pressurized coordinating attention. Stage number 55 is about facing our fears with others in a public emergency. Step up to the plate, time of need. Rise up, raise up the human spirit. As if on a sinking ship, excessive novelty, urgent, emergency, pressure skyrockets, terminal peril for all of us. We must invent right there on the spot. Collective improvisation, under the gun, in battle, as if to save our lives with others. High pressure, as if it were life or death, as if this were not a game. Too late for jitters. We forgot to be scared. We forget to be scared. Not enough time to be scared. Higher stakes, clutch teamwork needed. Under the gun, talk on defense. Too late for jitters. No time to think about it. Stakes are high, like competition. Urgency can bring out our very best. All right, that's a very short one. I kind of have the feeling that I might have lost a verse there in the translation, but these are kind of the rough drafts of these, and we'll get everything back together eventually. But that's just the basic start. We're talking about a situation. The sixth sphere is about being able to act in the face of fear. Now, at the beginning, all that's needed is to be able to. So an example of a sixth sphere thing is like public speaking. We all dread public speaking, especially for the first time or if we're not used to it. But we have to go up in our drama class or our English class and give a talk. We dread it because, we're not in our comfort zone. We're in real time. It's not a rehearsal. We can't afford to make any mistakes. We're totally exposed. So that's kind of like a sixth sphere. It's what you call taking the plunge, which is the previous fractal, number 54, is take the plunge. Number 55, this one, is basically about taking the plunge, but it's not an individual thing. It's a group thing. It's like the whole group is being threatened, and you have to take the plunge and stand up in the face of the fear. Spontaneously, like right now. There's no, and so it's not even so much about standing in the face of fear because you don't even have time to be scared because you got to act right now. And But you can prepare for such situations by practicing that kind of thing. So, that's what I'm trying to get at here with number 55, pressurized coordinating attention. I will definitely be talking about it more. But thanks for tuning in and sticking around to the end of the video. Please press the like button if you're so inclined. Also, you can share the video with others. You can subscribe to the channel. You can make comments to me. And you can also click the link in the description to get my guide to the 144 fractal faculties, which will help you out as we go through all these different videos. And you can donate directly to the channel through Cash App or Venmo listed in the description. And you can stay tuned for tomorrow, where I will be rolling out another one of the 144 fractal faculties, along with another variation of the description of the beginner's aspect of the Tree of Life. Meanwhile, have a beautiful day, and we will hopefully see you tomorrow.